All right, guys, welcome back. Today, our last lecture is a really fun lecture. I think it really has transformed the way that I've coached. And I've coached for a long time, but some people coach, I guess, implicitly, and some people coach explicitly. And I think this next contributor is a completely, totally opposite coach from me, but I think that we actually coach very similarly. We coach with knowledge and kindness and commitment. And so Lou Datilio is a coach at USA Flairs. He is a junior national team coaching staff representative. He is a former Region 6 coach and one of my very good friends. And I just want to welcome Lou to the show.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you. So, what I'm really talking about today is not so much a technical basis of how to do certain skills. It's a more of a way of looking at gymnastics. And I teach a lot from a conservation of energy standpoint. Looking at all these different techniques over the years, and you can get a lot of skills done through multiple different techniques. And I don't think there's one technique that works for everybody, but there's some crucial things that everybody always has to do. So, in order to get the kids to learn as fast as possible, I think you have to have a general prioritization of your workouts. And the first is presentation, because we're involved in artistic gymnastics. So unless you have that come to Jesus moment where, dude, this is a show and it's an artistic sport. If you don't recognize that, then you're missing the entire part of the sport, which is the execution side of the sport. And that's the most important thing. So when we're talking about I'm talking about 7 steps of learning gymnastics. Presentation is the most important part. Then we talk about strength and flexibility. And this is just preparing the athlete in order to do gymnastics. So most of your words corrections come from presentation. And then you have your strength and your flexibility, which is what we're actually doing in practice. And then we have knowledge. So as you're talking about your strength and flexibility, all these things I think have, unless they understand directly how they relate to the skills, they'll just be going through it and it's more like a CrossFit workout instead of being like, I am doing this so I can perform these skills better. And that's why you have to maintain focus on that. We're here to do artistic gymnastics, that first thing. So this strength and flexibility are kind of the next two. And I think that most amount of practice time and corrections come from these two. And then we go knowledge, that we're explaining all this stuff as we're going. So the fourth one is knowledge. And then the fifth one, we finally get to skills. So somewhere down the line of in your teaching, you finally get to skills, but it's not like you come in and you just start doing skills. You come in, you make sure they understand how to present themselves in a gymnastics environment, lining up, boom, right? Just lining up. It's all part of the presentation. It's not just straight legs, pointing toes. It's how you interact with your coach. Are you ready to learn? Are you an active learner? Are you, do you have the same goals? All of this you can see by their body language um, and their movements and how they're presenting their strength and their flexibility. So that was our fifth step, was our skills. And then the sixth step, there's a bunch of different stuff that goes along with this, but that's the competition phase of it, where we're putting a bunch of skills together into a competition. And there's a lot of mental training that goes along with that sixth step. And then the seventh step is, because this is such a long-term sport, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to work on our presentation again and our strength and our flexibility and increase our knowledge and learn bigger skills. So if you make that into your yearly training plan, you can really have you can really section off this part of the year we're working on this part of the year we're working on this part of the year we're working on this, and you can deconstruct that into your workouts also, where where you have a pyramidal structure of most of the workout is spent on these, on the presentation and the strength and the flexibility. And then it gets more towards the less of the workout is spent on the competition side. But this is kind of a this is like these general overviews of, I think, are really the most important part of gymnastics, because that's how you learn it the fastest. I don't think going over and over and over these individual techniques and making every kid do these individual techniques exactly right all the time until they get it perfect is necessarily the quickest way to achieve success. So along that line, we're talking about looking at it from a conservation of energy standpoint. And I'm going to show a little montage here of a bunch of different skills and a lot of different techniques that achieve these skills. So get this out of the way. Can you make Coach's Eye a co-host, please? Or
Yep, I got you.
I think I can do it. All right. There we go. I think this should do it.
Yep.
All right. And let's go with this overview of skills. So this is just a general montage of a bunch of different skills that we're looking at. And there's a lot of different techniques on like the peach basket. There's the free hip technique. There's the in-bar technique. There's releases coming from inside the bar. There's these in-bar skills. Most of the stuff like the jam that comes in a little bit early like this, the jam that comes in through the handstand, Tkachevs that pull over the bar piked, Tkachevs that are connected from different things, Tkachevs that do a shoulder bounce. They all have purpose. There's all different, like Cassina here, he's really not doing, he invented the Cassina, but he's really not doing a huge spike giant on this. And that's a lot of what the modern gymnastics teaches on how you do your Kovacs, but you don't necessarily need that. There's a couple things that you need. And the one crucial thing that I think really makes all this gymnastics possible is a dynamic movement to a strong shape hold. And that's the biggest thing that I think needs to be taught throughout the entire physical preparation of the athletes. When you're doing your strength and you're talking about how your strength relates to your gymnastics, if they can't move fast and then hold the shape strong, then they really can't do high level gymnastics. Most of this is about P-bars and high bar, but the same thing is true when you get to floor. It's just a lot quicker and more subtle. So you have to be even stronger with your shapes because you have very little amount of time. The springs on the floor are only like 4 inches and they compress, the floor is going to compress like this much, where the high bar moves a lot more and you have a lot more time to get through there. So depending on the spring of the apparatus depends on how fast and how sharp your movements have to be on this dynamic shape change to a strong shape hold. I think that this montage it's about done. Do a little bit of floor here, but if you can't hold your shape when you connect with the apparatus, you don't get a good energy transfer. And if you don't get a good energy transfer, you can't do higher level gymnastics. We're talking about being able to have elastic collisions instead of inelastic collisions. Like an elastic collision is one where, I'm going to stop this screen share here. And I think I should be able to be back on. There we go. An elastic collision is one where all the energy gets transferred into all the energy over here instead of it going in different places and being absorbed by different things. So that all being said, I'm going to do a comparison of two different techniques right now on the Takachev. The one is the shoulder angle bounce, and one is the Chinese tap into it. And it's actually the same guy doing both of these throughout different phases of his career, so that he can get different things out of them. So there's reasons to use the Chinese tap, and there's reasons to use the bounce. And we'll just look at what makes what makes a Takachev actually happen. All right, so I'm back over here again, doing a little screen share here.
Lou, just as of a note, like speaking after this, but there is no rush. You keep this. This could be 2 hours, 3 hours if you want. Good.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna go for that long. Thanks.
No, but that would be fun. Yeah, don't feel obligated to like rush through this stuff, you know?
All right. So let's just take a look at these. This is Mitch Mandozzi, NEAG gymnast that went to Iowa, just graduated. He was team captain, and Takachev's through different points of his career. So one's a Luke, but that you can see the two different taps here, right? So the one on the left is the shoulder bounce technique, and the one on the right is the like the Chinese tap technique. Let's look at it one more time. So the one on the right's the scoop over, and the one on the left is the shoulder bounce. All right. So let's look at this a little bit slower. I'll just back it up a little bit. And these are kind of connected from the bottom, so that the release is at the same time. So the giants at the beginning, obviously one's going to be fast over the top, so it has to start later, but you'll see how they catch up. All right, here we go. So the one on the right is shoulder bouncing, and then a shoulder angle, and he opens. And the one on the left scoops, and he's actually caught up now, and they both have this open here, right? The open, and then they close, and they open. All right, I'm going to call those the 3 different phases of this. And the phases are when there's a body movement, and then between the phases is when you have to maintain your tight shape so that you can transfer your energy. Anytime there's a body movement, we're talking about adding muscular energy into the system, because it, as long as it's done under tension. If you're having to use your muscles to change your shape, then you're adding energy in. But if you're changing your shape because something is like pushing on you and you're not holding tension, then you're losing energy. And you have to, when I'm coaching, I can't be too close to the athlete, because it's very hard for me to tell when I'm standing very close what the entire system is looking like. So a lot of times I have to stand way back away from the gymnast and have like significant amount of space so I can look at the entire system and see, am I gaining energy or am I losing energy through this body movement? Are they maintaining body core tightness, or is their core getting loose? Because those different things, then it's hard to tell whether or not their energy is actually transferring smoothly, or whether they're losing energy. So standing too close, I think, is like, you can see like super small technical issues easy, but you can't really see the big general picture of this. So I'm going to go back and do this one, just look at one of these and not look at all of them. together. Let's see. I'll look at this one. So we talked about the three different body shapes, right? We have the this is the Chinese tap, all right? So that's going to be phase 1, that's phase 2, that's phase 3. And I'm going to define these. If I look at this bar here, right now I'm like getting close. I'm looking at this bar and I'm going to see this bar move this way. This is our first phase. See how that bar moves that way? That means that we're storing energy. He's changing his body shape and that energy is going someplace. That energy is going into the spring of the bar. So I'm going to call that there, our first phase. Let me get that. About like that. That looks good. That bar changes right there. His shoulders, his feet go about like that, but his shoulders move all the way down there. So he's stopping his feet and he's transferring energy into his shoulders in this phase. And then he has to hold it tight through there. Look at how little body shape change he does that. Once he opens that up, it's like super tight, not really collapsing. It's very, very difficult to hold this throughout your core. You got to be very tight on that core until he hits the bottom right there. There's our next phase, right? The bar he starts changing his body shape, and you can see that he's going to start storing energy in the bar again. Let's see if we can see that bounce. There it is.
Now, stage 2, I'm always like not sure. Does it happen before the bottom slightly? And I'm sure you'll get to it. And can you maybe help me understand why it would? And I always want Yusuf to close his shoulders before the bottom of the bar, but I don't understand why. So maybe you can help me understand those things as we go through stage 2.
Okay. I'm just gonna let me draw where this stage 2 is. All right.
And one of the things that's really been helpful to me is thinking about that drop there, Matt. Like the drop from stage 1 to stage 2 is almost the most important thing, because if it's like Yusuf he'll get into the tap, but as he's dropping, the tap gets bigger and bigger, and the shape gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't get to a shape and stay there and like store and keep the energy. It loses the energy on the drop. So keep in the same shape from stage 1 to stage 2 right here. As soon as he gets here, it's the same. It doesn't get bigger or smaller. Boom.
Yeah.
And then, okay, go Lou.
Sorry, I stepped away for a minute and you might have already connected this, but I'm having more trouble with Tapelts than Tkachevs, and with them being able to hold that shape into phase 2 and then be able to change shape to go into a pike. Especially like Jake Harmon, he's so tall now. He grew 6 inches in the last year. He's 5'9". And the only skill in gymnastics that's been impacted really is his Tapelt. Like he's slamming his feet on the floor, or he's now like barely touching, but so that would be cool to talk about how to get that, that action to be more dynamic for him.
So one of the things I do is Yin Alvarez. Is that me? Yin Alvarez did a show on Friday, and it was all about tip outs, and he had like 6 or 7 different drills in there and different spots in there that were really, really helpful. And if you go to his YouTube thing, it's Gymnastics. I'm giving him a plug. I love that. If you go there, then he's got a bunch of stuff. But the last one, dude, I watched every second of it, and I had all my guys watch it because they got to learn how to do Tkachevs and tip outs, and Yin is the king at that stuff. So, all right, Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have a lot of the shoulders are moving a lot through, the shoulders and the hips are moving a lot through phase one. And then they really stop, and you transfer all that energy into the kinetic energy in the feet, right? In the feet and the toes. So that's moving a lot. And then you transfer that energy again in this phase three. You can look at that bar, how that bar bends that way. It's getting really pulled. So make this our phase three here, right? And his feet are going to be really moving like that, and his shoulders come really up there. So his feet move there and his shoulders move. And you can kind of see how much movement there is in each, like the shoulders move a lot, then they move a little, then they move a lot, and the feet move a little, then the feet move a lot, then they move a little. And all that means is that you're transferring energy from one part of your body to another part of your body, and you have to learn how to, and you start learning how to rotate around the center and create these different vortexes of counter rotation. And within the and he's just stretching up to straight up with his shoulders on that turn. That's fun, right? So you hit, you hold, then really fast, right? If you look at how many frames this is on this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 frames. He moves that entire, like his feet hardly move at all, and his shoulders move from way under the bar to almost all the way stood up. Down here in phase two, let's look at how many frames this is. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 or 10 frames. His feet go almost 180 degrees. He's flying through there, but his shoulders are totally stopped. So understanding how to stop the shoulders and then snap your body around the shoulders, stop your feet, snap your shoulders, right? That's pretty much everything. So looking at this, stop the screen share.
Lou, can you go to stage 3 and just like tell me, where am I supposed to be letting go? Am I letting go at the apex of stage 3 or later, or because I think that Yusuf holds on too long?
Yeah, you definitely have to be anticipating the end of the tap. Like most of the time with the issues on this, they're waiting. They don't know when the end of the tap is, right? So they either let go while their feet are still coming up, like here, right? And they never open up their hips and their shoulders don't open up, or they, almost all the time, that's the issue, honestly, that they don't finish that open. And I think with Yusuf, his hips and his shoulders aren't all the way connected, so it's not a full body movement. Like his feet are still coming up while he's trying to open up his shoulders, and then he's not creating the counter rotation because his feet are still his feet continue to go up instead of feet stopping. His feet are going up as he's pushing his shoulders up. So there's not the counter rotation happening.
Am I letting go at the apex of 3 or no?
As soon as the shoulders and hips finish as far as they can go, then you let go. Like Mitchell has pretty tight shoulders, and where does he come off? He comes off like he still has a little bit of a shoulder angle. Then he's letting go, and he's actually in like a little bit inlocated on that throw. So the hips, the timing of the hips and the shoulders, like have to be at the same time. And if the hips aren't open or the shoulders aren't open, then you don't get the counter rotation. Like you have to have all your energy working together.
Okay, I'm gonna even ask the question one more time because you know, like when the bar bounces all the way right here, right? Keep going a little bit more. Where is the big bar bounce in 3?
There.
Do I let go at that apex of the bar bend?
No, it's gotta, help. It can't, it's got to start coming back the other way.
Okay, all right. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. Yeah. If they let go, um, that, if they let go there, then the force is going the wrong way. The force is going forwards and they come up short on it. But it's got to be really close to there. Like it can't be by the time the bar like comes all the way back again.
Okay.
Like
Okay, that's a good threshold then. But if he's still on by the time the bar whips back, then he's
then he's too late.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you
He's
so
got to stop himself and then let go.
Okay.
And his timing is the bend of that bar. Like that's how much time, that's the timing that they have to have. However much time that bar bends, right? So if they have if they don't bend that bar as much, the timing gets really quick and they don't have a lot of time to go through their full range of motion in their body, right? And that's one of the issues, Craig, with the Tapelt is that the bars, like on the Tapelt, we're not really looking at the bar bounce on the Tapelt, we're looking at the upright bounce, and their uprights really don't move all that much from side to side. So you're not using, like it'd be nice if the uprights could move from side to side a little bit more, if they had a little bit of bounce there, because that could really help them feel that timing. So they have to do a lot of it on their own on that. The how tall is Jacob at this time? 5'9"?
Yeah.
No, 5'9". Yeah, he should be able to.
And we've watched, a lot of different videos, and you're absolutely right. Like, it's not the same timing doesn't fit for every kid. It's like Jacob's still trying to find his timing that works for him. He can't go really late. He hits his feet more. So he's, we're trying to get him to go like 45 to start his arch. And that's where he feels like he's strong enough to come close. But we're still trying to play around with, keeping the pressure on the bar. And
the timing has to do with how fast you can get. Like the later you go, the faster you have to move, and the taller you are, the harder that is and the more force it takes. So you're right, like taller athletes have to start it earlier because it takes longer for them to get them and to get there, and the forces just go through the roof when you're talking about getting longer. So it's highly dependent on how strong he is, right, compared to how tall he is. So now if we want to talk about some like drills, is that kind of the question? Talk about some
that would be good. Yeah, if that doesn't distract you from.
Lou, I also noticed that the picture of the jams. Feel free to talk about jams too. Hi, Jules.
So one of my favorite drills for the Tapelt and the Tkachev, because I think they're really the same. You just have to change it, the timing of it a little bit, is they do a glide swing and then they open up their shoulders in the front and they do a mini heck tap and then they pull forwards again. We do this on P bars and on high bar with the guys as they're learning this stuff. And I don't have a video of it, but I do have my hand. Right? So they do the glide swing and they do the open up and then they pike through and then they show that opening and then they come through again and then they throw. And on P bars, I try to get them to do to land in an upper arm and do a front uprise out of it. So they turn over, land in an upper arm and front uprise out of it.
Okay.
All right. Instead of just throwing and landing on your feet, you try to get up high enough where you can actually come around and land in front uprise out of it. And we do this with some pretty tall guys. And before their glide swing, they're like swinging with bent legs. But as soon as they start the tap, they go into they go straight leg glide to the open, drop, kick, drop, pull, and they have to be they have to move like it's a hard drill. They really have to
Yeah.
pay attention to their body tightness and pulling on that bar as hard as they can. On P bars, it's a little bit uh, they'll 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 see how they have to get way back, and they started a little bit earlier on P bars to get through the bottom, right? So they'll
Hmm.
pull longer and their shoulders will stay back more. On high bar, it's a very, very small swing at the beginning because the bar moves around so much that they have to really learn to drop their shoulders down on the finish of the heck tap and not let it pull backwards. So they have to stay down and stay down as they turn over. So on high bar, it's a little bit smaller swing and they go down more. And on P bars, they pull back and they go backwards a little bit more on that.
Okay.
So slight differences on it, but I mean, it's the same kinetic chain. It's just the timing has
Right.
been shifted a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking, and we're trying to target a little bit that it's a lot of core strength that is because he's stretched out so much, like his core hasn't quite caught up
Mm-hmm.
because his Takachevs are insane. They're so high. So
Mm-hmm.
he's able to get that turnover on the high bar.
Yeah, it's
But I like that drill though, because I do the one with him where like I lift his feet up and kind of put some pressure on his traps and then let him go, and he is able to miss his feet that way. But I haven't done it. He hasn't done it where he's got to work that action on his own and that glide action.
yeah, it's I don't know. It's just one of my favorite ones. That they're strong enough to get that open and then close without their
Yeah.
shoulders moving. They understand how to isolate the movement around their shoulders and rotate around their shoulders and be fast enough to do
Yeah,
that.
like that.
Lou, do you have a video of that Bobzar that the Japanese guy did?
Yes, I
Do you,
do.
will you go through the Bobzar the same way that you did the Takachev?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's just this tightness thing. It's the tightness through the bottom of the peach. It's the tightness in the bottom of the jam. It's the tightness as your feet impact the ground. It's like this, like Lou, you've called this talk your unified swing theory. It's like a body's got to be super tight, like a sling, like a catapult, and store energy. And it's just revolutionized the way I look at Yusuf Stakachev and all of his swing work. And I don't know, it's been very, very helpful.
Um, it Once I started looking at it like this, the skills became so easy, so easy to relate because they all are almost the same thing. There's a there's three different types of things. There's a single bounce, a double bounce, and a triple bounce. And you do these three different things, and you understand almost all of your gymnastics. Um, like all of our skills come from those. So it ends up being pretty easy.
Well, good.
I'm just sorry. Go ahead. I do have that. I know I have that. There
Or
it
do
is.
Yusuf a good one and Yusuf a bad one. Yeah, this is awesome to watch. Just watch the similarities, but just the way the bar
Okay.
works is different.
All right. I gotta import it into. I gotta import it. I just found it.
But the same concept is going to work for your lock arms, for your Yamawakis, like tight through the bottom, fast change and tight flip. And through your swing down the bottom on a P bar, like swing to handstand, or a glide kip, or an endo, or it's just a tight position and a quick motion. And it's the same thing as vault.
Yep.
And
Um,
now it's like the importance of your hollow rocks and stretch rocks and your tap swings and the ability to transfer between one and the other is and tech sequences and all that stuff is now even more important.
there we go. All right, that should be it. Yeah, there it is. All right. So he's a little short, right? So the timing on this is going to be below the bars because of how short he is. This is really, he's so late here, right? I mean, he is very, very low. So the amount of strength that it takes to move from there, look at to there is incredible. But that's where he's generating his power. Like that's how come he can go so flipping high above the bars is because right here, like right here, his shoulders move like this much and his feet move all the way over there. It's an incredible amount of force that he's generating there. Incredible amount. And now he just stops his feet here, right? He just stops his feet. Boom. His feet are through the bottom. Here we go.
Man, it's
His feet go like this, and
so dramatic.
his shoulders go all the way up there. And so that once he's off the bar, like what he does in the air isn't really, it's just, it's secondary. It's like looking at the twist on the Liukin or something that's not really related to, once you're in the air, once you generate enough energy to be in the air, you can do kind of whatever you want. But it's this phase here where you're stopping and you're adding all that energy in. After you have that, it's easy. You're just floating. This is almost nothing on that side. You just have to make sure you hit your shapes, like your shoulders open, your hips and your shoulders opening at the same time is very important because you want to add all the energy in the same direction. So for how tall they are and how strong they are, where this phase one happens is very different because there are almost nobody that can get that low and stop their shoulders that hard. Because almost nobody can go that high.
Well, except for Raj himself, but he's the same height as that guy.
Right.
I couldn't believe the first, like, because Jake and I have been watching a lot of Raj's, like the insane one at the OTC. Probably the first one everybody else saw. Yeah, he goes so late.
Yep. And I gotta.
That's so high.
Let me get rid of
You
my
show
dog.
the bars.
Hold on. Brax, come here.
Get
Go.
dog out of here.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Will you show the bend of the bars?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
Come.
But all of the shapes, I mean, it's the same thing for the
There you go.
uprise double front. It's like you got to keep after the front uprise, you got to keep the shape. You got to keep the shape all the way through the bottom. You got to create a huge heel drive. Your heels are going to stop. Your body's going to rise. I mean, it's the same exact thing, right, Lou?
Yeah, it is. One of the things that you talked about was like when compared to the bottom, when they go through the bottom. I think I forgot about that question. The pulling their feet early on the Tkachev, like getting their feet through the bottom is like the same on most of these swing skills. If that happens, if that happens early, then um, generally speaking, they're gonna lose some energy, like because the most force is when they're straight up and down, and if they get early through the bottom, then uh, then they don't get their full hang there, and they're losing some energy. However, um, on the Tkachev, a lot of times you have to pick that up slightly. I still don't like it. I still like it more when they come flat through the bottom, and then they kick their toes, because whenever they come off early through there, like they end up um, going forwards like too much, and their feet never open up. I wouldn't have anybody kick on anything hardly before the bottom, except for this skill. Here.
I notice it a lot on ring swings that
Yeah.
they try to kick before the bottom and then they
Hmm.
start picking up swing or can't get their way to a handstand.
Yeah. And this skill particularly travels a ton, right? So it's one of the only skills that you really want to want to go that far forwards on, and it's kind of it's innate to the skill because you can't hang through the bottom. You have to pull early to get your feet through the bottom. And if you do that in the rings, oh my goodness, you're coming off the rings a lot of times. You're just peeling, right? Um, so maybe I think,
Lou, will you do me a favor and just show the bend of the
yeah.
bars?
Oh, shoot. Yeah, I forgot.
Right, because that wasn't really like I'm looking at the bars bending downwards, and I was looking at the wrong thing that was bending. And to know that it's the uprights, not the wood itself, up or down.
Well, that right there,
Really.
see how, like, look, it's hard to see because they don't move that much, right? That right there. There. Like that. It's like he's pulling the bars back like in this direction really hard. So
Yeah.
yeah, the bars are moving, bars are storing energy there, but a lot of it's getting stuck because this upright really doesn't want to move at all, you know? So if we could add a little bit of spring in that, I think that those skills would change pretty substantially. But you're right about storing the energy on because this pull is in that direction. The bars definitely do move there, right? But a lot of it is he's just having to pull on it because the system doesn't, the spring's so tight that it doesn't store a lot of energy.
Now, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that you would get, or maybe that's a loaded question. What do you think the impact of this energy system here would be if the upright was moved closer together, like a half a centimeter?
Like,
So if the uprights were
right,
just another
yeah.
centimeter
If
closer,
they were over there instead
yeah,
of here.
yeah, it would create more torque, right? Because it would be more bend on the bar,
Hmm.
the upright, and you might be able to increase the bendiness of the end of the wood there and store a little bit more energy. So
Hmm.
instead of adding springiness to the bar, just move the uprights in. Do you think that would do it?
I think that it would definitely make the bars bend more. There's no question about that. And with the bars bending more, you can store more energy in there,
Yeah.
right? It'll give you the time to use it.
Well, it'll do a couple of things. First of all, it'll make it so that the base of the upright is going to bend more, but then it also creates more torque because your hands would be further away from that upright axis of rotation there. So
Yeah.
you would bend the bars more. So you would get like a double result from the same change
Mm-hmm.
because two materials really.
So,
All right.
oh man, he's like, what, it's just strong and fast movements, right? Strong and fast movements.
Will you show the jam?
It, yeah.
And all of a sudden you start thinking about it's the same thing over and over. And Yusuf wants to learn a cause, and it's like, all right, well, your shoulders gotta get, in front of you quick, and then your shoulders gotta stop, and your heels gotta come up, and then your shoulders gotta lift, and you gotta finish your. So the same thing over and over.
Do this one. I think this one's a pretty good one. I think the one in his gym is better though. Yeah, this one's
Oh
better.
yeah, this is nice. Huh?
This is a really good one. All right, so this is what I would call a single bounce skill, right? And it's really, if we look at the bar, there's only one motion around here. And so when you're doing a single bounce, when you're doing the single bounce skill, there's less, you have, there's less places, right? There's this place here, there's this bottom, and and that's pretty much your only two places that you're really looking at where the energy is, because this is your maximum, like, let's see. His hips are really far away here. So when I talk about why this is so important, because at this point, his radius is the longest that he has on that side. So he has the most mass as far away from the bar as he can in that spot. And what he does really well on this one is if you look at his shoulder angle's like really open here on this. And he maintains that for a very long time, and then he has to be very quick through the bottom to change that. It's open, 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 and then a really quick change through there. And that's really why he can create so much energy through there. And also, this is another place where this hips coming through and his shoulder pull have to happen at the same time. Most of the time, people start rushing with their hips through here, like they start opening their hips and not their shoulders. And when you open up your hips without your shoulders, you always come out flat. So being able to hold those shoulders open and then really pull those shoulders through the bottom and finish that swing through the bottom from there to there is the most important part about having that jam go up to that handstand, because people just hold that shoulders closed and open their hips up, and it pulls them over the top. And I have some videos examples of that. So we'll look at Reese made that mistake at nationals, right? We'll look at this, but then we'll look at Niles. You can see he's opening his hips up right through the bottom there without finishing his shoulder pull. And as soon as that happens, it just comes a little bit past that handstand. Just that little open gets him past that handstand. So he just misses it a tiny bit. And we'll look at a professional over here, another professional athlete. And side by side. See this one right here. This one's opening up with the hips early here. He's not finishing. He's not staying compressed. He's opening his hips because he didn't pull through the bottom hard enough. And this finish happens way past the bar there, as opposed to on top of the bar. This was a little bit, this top one was a little bit late on that one also. You can see a little bit late compared to this one, which is pretty significantly past vertical. So that compared to that, right? I mean, that's a pretty big difference on the finish. And that all has to do with it not finishing those hips through the bottom. Like, look at this shoulder angle here. There's way less energy, right?
Yeah.
Way less energy. And then just, oops. Just stops right there. Look at that. That's killer. That's just done compared to the top one that stays all the way compressed till his hips clear his elbows. So on the single bounce skill, when you're talking about the in-bar stuff, keeping that center of gravity, those hips, that big momentum center as far away from the bar and as you can at the beginning, and then making sure that your shoulders and your hips are opening at the same time makes a big difference on that one. All right.
So I have a question.
Sure.
On P bars, so for the peach, you can do the like free hip technique or the full, like Stalder, and you can have the same end result. Is there a way on the jam on high bar to have kind of like a hybrid that still gets you to the right place? Like if you can't get Danelle Leva's like open angle that you showed.
Yeah. All right. So one of the things that that you can do to help with that is like another technique is to kind of come in a little bit early.
Okay.
I'll look back at Lisa's thing again. All right. So that motion right there, he's actually doing a dynamic movement to a to this hold, and so he's transferring this this pike energy to make the bar bend. You'll actually see the bar bend there, and that's
Lou, share the screen.
oh, right, okay, so that helps. Good. Okay. So let's see. Significantly flat, fast through here to a stop. And when he does that, he's transferring his kinetic energy into that pike position, which is pulling him further away from the bar, right? So instead of coming from the handstand, letting the hips come out and drop that way, he's using that compression, he's using that dynamic movement to the compression to gain some energy on that. And then so you end up, you can see as he stops there, the bar pulls that way. See that bar bend there?
Yep.
So he's using that bar bend to help him get all the way through the bottom to gain a little bit of energy on that. Right. So that's a technique of two different techniques. That one is using a transfer of kinetic energy, and one is using the that longer, those hips away from the bar to gain more energy. So a longer radius to gain more energy on that one. Two different techniques that I think are both viable and that you can get pretty good results from both of them.
Lou, Lou, we
Yeah,
talk about the steepness of the feet.
yeah. This, uh, let's see. Okay, hold on. I got a good one.
Matt, do you have any comments?
So this is, I put in the lines of where their feet start, and uh, this is, these are these two different techniques, and I'm kind of showing just where their feet come through. So Reese's comes through flat, but he gets that extra kinetic energy there, and Leva comes straight down and adds it really right at the bottom, right? So he also has, in addition to Danelle's shoulders being really open there, when he hits that compression, that's when he gets his extra kinetic boost right at the bottom, which makes that bottom heavy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he not only has the angular momentum with his hips farther away, but he's also adding in that drop right at the bottom, right? So in order for that to happen, his shoulder pull through there has to be super fast and super consistent, right? I mean, it's like bang fast, because he's making that bottom so steep, and that also makes it a little bit more I don't know, probably a little bit easier actually to control, because as you look at, I'm kind of deviating this to a when people are first learning their giant to flyaways, a lot of times their giant to flyaway starts as a single bounce, and as they get more consistent and gain confidence, then they start making it into a double bounce, and the double bounce actually gets more consistent, because all you got to do is make sure you hit that first one, and then your body gets thrown into the second shape,
Into the second.
right? So they don't have to really worry about their timing quite so much, because the timing's so fast. They just, if they hit the first shape exactly right, then the next shape happens almost immediately, and the timing becomes, they don't have to feel it so much. Their body is thrown right through it. So when you're first learning a giant to fly away, it's so slow, and you just got to wait for it, and let go. As opposed to when you're doing a really big Chinese tap and you open up hard, that first opening almost directly defines how hard the bar is going to bounce you on that second one. And it might even be a little bit more consistent. At first, when I was playing with this, I thought that the steeper angle was harder to control. But as I've been coaching and exploring this, I found that that using a really fast bottom gets rid of that time where you can get into a wrong shape, and makes it a little bit easier. So I think the steeper angle that Leva has actually leads itself to a little bit more consistency, because you have to move so fast, and you can't slow down, and you can't decelerate and you can't stop it because it forces your hips to move through the bottom better.
Lou, doesn't it also
Yep.
force him because he comes through the bottom number one to it forces him to compress more, right? Because it's got more
Mm-hmm.
mv squared over r, right? So more velocity, more force, right? And then
Yep.
the other thing is so it's going to force him into compression faster and with more power because power is force times velocity. So it's going to pull the bar down a little bit more. And I think that it's also going to um, so I think that it also requires a lot more grip strength here, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this green line through here is something that if you don't hit that, you can't do a jam. Like that's a torso angle. That's the same for almost everybody all the time. So no matter where you come in, you have to make sure that that timing through the bottom is their torso angle has to be at that like 20 degrees. That's something that no matter what technique you use, this is where you got to be through the bottom. And if their feet are down, then it doesn't matter. They can't save it, right? If their feet are up, they can't save it. But that torso angle. So no matter whether you're using the shallow entry or the vertical entry, you got to hit that bottom shape right there.
Okay.
Um, and
It's interesting. It's another skill that like Harmon can do a peach handstand and he gets it on P bars, but keeping those shoulders open on the jam, it's tough. Seems like it's the same action, but
right,
comes easier.
It's
He
probably
must, I think he must just play with the high bar better, like he just has a better feel for the pull or something.
it's probably too much.
you um, you don't have to be quite as strong on high bar. I've found because the bar stores so much energy, right,
Yeah.
compared to the P bars. So on P bars, like you have to add a lot more muscular strength in order to get those same things because the bars just don't move as much as the high bar moves.
Yeah.
That high bar can, like, once you understand how to store the energy in the high bar and get it back out again, it, it takes a lot, like you can be very efficient with that. On P bars,
Yeah.
it's very hard to store that energy in the P bars.
Matt, do you have any comments? Do you have any questions or anything for Lou? I know that Smoothie's starting to work his Tkachevs and getting more consistent. We did a little bit of a breakdown. I did the best that I could the other day, but this is really where most of that information came from. So, seem to have helped you guys, or at least your Tkachev seem to be making some progress. So, good job.
Yeah, it's coming a lot better after that little thing breakdown you did with him. A lot of focus on staying tight through those shapes. He passes through his arch and lets his heels lag behind him a little bit, and we're seeing how that little bit of a change makes the whole entire thing go late. But he's starting to catch the Tkachev more often now, so it's been really helpful, and this has been really helpful too.
Craig, is Jake going more from the handstand? He's trying to do the open shoulder drop in from the handstand, or is he
Um,
a little bit earlier?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't even do them from giants yet on high bar. He just we're on the
Just
low
cast.
bar. He casts a handstand and then he
Yeah.
just I think you're right about the power in the bar because he just like whips over. Like he can come in fast but he's at the bottom the wrong time and he's opening early but that was helpful to hear just looking at that phase and where to get it on that side of the bar.
And his endos are fine.
Oh yeah, and endos and stalders, beautiful drop.
Yeah. Yeah, he can't in the jam. You can't get. He probably gets pretty like his below his like his knees are probably below his shoulders as he comes through the bottom on the endo,
Okay.
right? He seems like he's pretty flexible and able to get
Yeah.
into that super low position. And on the jam,
Right.
obviously you can't do that because your feet are in your face, right? And you have to,
Yeah.
I think that's the timing that is really different on that, is that he's a little bit in tighter and you have to have your hips up a little bit higher on that.
Yeah. Okay.
The timing issues like that, just the strap bar, just horizontal to horizontal, like rocks on the strap bar, I think are really useful.
Okay. It's
Because
good.
he can get so many done in one turn. He can go through hundreds of them in in one high bar workout,
Yeah.
as
No,
opposed
that's
to
a
one
good
at a
point. We
time.
gotta do that more.
Right. So just those rocks. And Lorenzo, I mean, his guys they did a lot of that, and they could go like almost handstand to handstand on the strap bar. So they understood the bottom very, very well. Numbers makes a big difference
Good
for those
tips.
little timings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, little things. All right, I think that's about it. Like fast shape, boom, hold your shape, right? Fast shape, hold your shape.
Right.
Floor, fast snap down, hold your shape off the ground. Right, just through that impact. Once you get off into the air, everything, like, you can do whatever you want. But in order to get the energy to get into the air, you got to be really tight through the bottom.
Okay. Thank you, Lou, so much. All right.
Thank you.